Hello and welcome to the Hutcheson House, where we believe in freedom of speech and freedom of thought and the freedom to share ideas, even if we disagree, especially if we disagree, because that's how we expand our consciousness. So, this is a video that I actually had made for my other channel, Leah Marlene 111, if you want to check out that channel. But that channel keeps getting demonetized and all sorts of things. So I'm going to do these reactions and political things here. That channel, we'll see what's going to happen. I'm going to still do content on meditations and things to help you to feel calm, cool, collected under pressure on stage, on camera, and in your life. And here, I think what we're going to do is reactions and hot topics. And right now, the hottest topic is this election. We have a month out. I almost didn't post this video because I was going to post it on my other channel, and then that channel was getting demonetized and whatever. And then it was sitting here on my computer, and I thought, you know what? I'm going to post this. It's a long video, but it goes through the entire speech of Kamala's DNC acceptance speech. I'm very curious to know what you think, so please watch it and let me know. Please do subscribe. Let's get this channel built up, spread the information, and make communication possible. Again, thank you for being here. I'm excited to hear what you think or read what you think. Okay. Freedom of speech is becoming more and more a thing of the past. Yeah, you're free to talk as long as you think exactly how I think. You're free to talk as long as I don't like what you think. You're free to talk as long as it goes along with this exact script. And I don't like that. And I'll say right off the bat here, I also don't like that if you're gay, Black, an artist, whatever it is, you're supposed to think exactly in alignment with the Democratic Party. That is ridiculous, especially if the policies don't align with you. So, having lived in California over a decade, moving to Colorado, and still being in the arts, I realized that this video may not be popular with some of my colleagues, a lot of my colleagues, okay? This may not be popular, but invite yourself to come into freedom of speech. So I'm going to say right here, right now, that what I'm going to do with this video as a director, as a coach, as somebody who directs and helps people deliver speeches, I'm going to dissect this speech that Kamala Harris gave at the DNC as her acceptance speech, and maybe shed some light, if you love Kamala, as to why some people might have a different viewpoint than you, okay? Because instead of just demonizing whoever has a different viewpoint, my invitation here is to maybe shed some light on how others might think. Maybe people that you love, maybe your friends and family, maybe people that you decided that you want to cancel because you think of them in some horrible way now because you've been gaslit into believing that. And I just ask you to breathe, come into your body, come into your heart. And if you agree with me, please share your beliefs and why you agree. If you disagree, please share why you disagree. But let's play as nice as we can. We're all adults here, okay? We can disagree and not name call and this and that. I hope. Maybe, maybe not. We'll see. We'll see how the comments go. I mean, I've been called a lot of names, and that's okay. But I actually want to engage in a conversation here is my point, okay? That's what I would really like. And I would also like to not be attacked because I'm a mama. I'm a mommy, okay? And I'm also a business owner. And I've lost a lot of friends in the last few years just by having a different way of thinking. And I think that is very sad. So if you're quick to cancel somebody, if you're quick to say, yeah, freedom of speech, unless you think differently than me, then ask yourself, do you really believe in freedom of speech? I've been really scared to do a video like this, but I've wanted to do a video like this for a very long time because what I do for a living is read behavior. I'm not the type of acting teacher that's like, okay, smile. All right, now here's exactly how you talk and exactly how you walk. And I don't do that. There are some acting teachers that do that. There are some speech directors that do that. And I'm afraid that I'm beginning to see that on the world stage. So before I didn't want to speak up because I wanted to bring people together in a way that I thought I had to be silenced. But now, since so many people are speaking up, and especially even students and people and colleagues that I love are free to speak, and they're not worried about what I would do because I wouldn't do anything, because you can disagree with me. So I just invite you to please not try to cancel me, because I got a kid to feed. And I've been scared, honestly, because I really can't afford to have my business stripped away from me for having freedom of thought. Okay, so I invite you just to listen with your heart. Maybe open your eyes to a different perspective if we disagree. And if we agree, then you're right. I'm just kidding, but you are. Okay, so we're gonna go through Kamala's DNC speech now, and I'm gonna just look at it as the director that I am, and maybe point out some things that you saw or didn't see. Okay, let's go through this together. Let's see if I can. I thought I had it all pulled up, but I guess not. So let me get back to it here.
Thank you, please. Thank you. Okay, let's get to business. Let's get to business. All right. So let me start by thanking my most incredible husband, Doug, for being an incredible partner to me, an incredible father to Cole and Ella. And happy anniversary, Dougie. I love you so very much. To our President Joe Biden. When I think about the path that we have traveled together, Joe, I am filled with gratitude. Your record is extraordinary, as history will show, and your character.
Okay, right? Why does he? I'm sorry. He looks like. Okay, I'm gonna try to play nice here. He looks like she definitely is in charge. She's definitely in charge of that relationship from just that little bit of behavior.
And to Coach Jim Walls, you are going to be an incredible vice president. And to the delegates.
They put her on this huge pedestal and they're like way down here. That's not, it's one thing to honor somebody that you love and all of that, but to put her way up on this pedestal and you're way down here does not give me confidence if you're going to be our vice president, Waltz. I mean, come on, step it up a little. It's nice to show respect, but I don't know.
Everyone who has put your faith in our campaign, your support is humbling. So, America, the path that led me here in recent weeks was no doubt unexpected. But
was it, Kamala? Was it really unexpected? See, right here, again, I just feel like she's lying, because Kamala, we all saw for the last couple of years that Joe Biden was not doing well. We all saw that. My dad, unfortunately, died this past February. He wasn't doing well. I saw it. I wouldn't deny that he wasn't doing well. I know what that looks like. So to act, and he was way more alert than Joe Biden, but my stepmom has dementia. And sometimes she's very alert and sometimes she's extremely lucid and other times not so much. That's what most of us noticed with Joe Biden. But the censorship and smear campaigns on anybody who thought that way, it was, oh, that's a deep fake and that's a lie and everything. And so we were being gaslit to not trust our own eyes. We all saw that. And then when it was okay to see it, and then the news made it okay to see it because they're like, oh, we're all admitting now that we see it, then it was okay to say it. But before that, before the debate, it wasn't okay to say it. When we're all like, is Joe Biden doing okay? What is going on? He doesn't know how to find the exit of the stage. So right now, by Kamala saying this was so unexpected, I don't believe it. I don't believe it because, okay, first of all, that could mean that she never saw that he wasn't doing well. That doesn't make me confident in her, because if she didn't notice that being side by side with him when we all saw it, and the people who think they didn't see it at least saw it on debate night, she saw that before. So Kamala, this was so unexpected. You had no idea that this was coming. You probably thought, if if you're really a smart person, which I think you are very smart, that you would have thought, maybe I'm going to be president, because that's how it works. If something happens to the president, the vice president steps in. And if you're noticing cognitive disarray, then maybe you're going to be president. If that had never crossed your mind, then I'm really concerned. So right away, this is very disingenuous. I would have a lot more respect and trust in her if she said, Joe, you're a wonderful president. You've been doing great. I respect that you're, stepping down. I didn't expect it because we saw such great moments with you, but, yeah, I don't know. I don't know how she could have said that better, because I know you got to play politics. You don't want to scare everybody because he's still the president. Which, is he? Okay.
A stranger to unlikely journeys. So our mother, Kamala Harris, had one of her own, and I miss her every day, and especially right now. And I know she's looking down, smiling.
Okay. And this is the sentimental part of the speech where we're all supposed to get, teary-eyed, and she's looking around like, is it working? Is it working?
I know that.
Now, I do think she probably has love for her mom, but I think this right here was a manipulation. It's a manipulation. And we can admit, on both sides, it's all a big show. I mean, it's a big show. It's a big production. And that's why it's even more scary that the news and media doesn't just give you the facts, because it's like we have to, people are getting in fights just to find the facts of this stuff, because everything is so censored and so produced. It's all a big Hollywood movie these days. But especially, let's admit, the side that Hollywood is backing the most. Okay, let's admit that, right? They put on a good show.
So my mother was 19 when she crossed the world alone, traveling from India to California with an unshakable dream to be the scientist who would cure cancer.
Okay. So she says her mom came across the waters into the United States to become the scientist to cure breast cancer. Now that's amazing, right? That's amazing. It was only one scientist. It was her mom. That was it. Nobody else helped her. Nobody else at all. No, that's awesome. I mean, that's amazing. If that was her, that was fantastic. But again, painting the picture, planting the seed, and this still has nothing to, these are great stories. It has nothing to do with policy. It has nothing to do with how she's going to run the country potentially.
To finish school, she was supposed to return home to a traditional arranged marriage. But as fate would have it, She met my father, Donald Harris, a student from Jamaica. They fell in love and got married, and that act of self-determination made my sister Maya and me. Growing up, we moved a lot. I will always remember that big Mayflower truck packed with all our belongings, ready to go to Illinois, to Wisconsin, and wherever our parents.
Oh, I just picked up on something. Oh my gosh, I just picked this up. Okay, so this is just her way to say, like, I'm from everywhere. I'm from everywhere in the United States. So every single state vote for me. Okay, I just got that. Very clever speechwriter, very clever.
Jobs took us. My early memories of our parents together are very joyful ones. A home filled with laughter and music, Aretha, Coltrane, and Miles. At the park, my mother would say, "Stay close." But my father would say, as he smiled, "Run, Kamala, run. Don't be afraid. Don't let anything stop you."
Okay, that was such a speech writing tactic right there because, okay, first of all, if like I even forgot for a second what she was talking about. She says she was at the park and her mom's like, stay close, because that's a normal thing for a mom to say. And then the dad says, run, Kamala, run, which we all probably forgot that that's not a good thing to do, like run away from your parents at the park. But I totally missed that. But instead we think like, oh, just run for president, because that's going to be the TikToks and the marketing and run, Kamala, run, right? So we have to insert that in the speech and make it make sense somehow. So like, it's just like you're running at the park, but why have it right smack dab next to the mom says be safe? It's like, how about just, I was playing around and, I was like, go slow, don't hurt yourself, don't go too fast. And the dad was like, run, Kamala, run. That would have been a better, anyway.
From my earliest years, he taught me to be fearless. But the harmony between my parents did not last. When I was in elementary school, they split up.
Well, no, it's not gonna last. She's like, stay close. He's like, run. That's already gonna be it's you.
And it was mostly my mother who raised us. Before she could finally afford to buy a home, she rented a small apartment in the East Bay. In the Bay, you either live in the hills.
In the Bay, have you guys heard about San Francisco lately, where many of her policies are in place? San Francisco is not looking so good. San Francisco. Yeah. And those same policies have moved to Colorado. I mean, it's that's where I live, and they're not good policies, because I noticed them on the street and I didn't even know that they were Kamala's policies until I was like, why is this happening? Like the $950 shoplifting thing, that's a thing in Colorado. So I was noticing as I'm at Best Buy, people are just walking out with loads of stuff. So I asked the guy, I'm like, what? This was already like in 2021. And they're like, oh yeah, we can't do anything. We can't do anything. And if we do anything, we will be prosecuted as the store clerk. So that's awesome. And there's a lot of other policies that are just simply not working. And they started in San Francisco. So if you want the entire country to look like San Francisco, then that's what is happening. But she's excited about it.
Or the flatlands, we lived in the flats. A beautiful working class neighborhood.
She thought people were going to be so excited about that, but it's like you're overly excited in the weirdest spots. I don't know. I mean, I love Colorado. I'm from Colorado and I love it here, but it's like, and I lived on a street and it was amazing.
of firefighters, nurses, and construction workers, all who tended their lawns with pride.
Okay, I know I'm stopping this so much, but here's another, it's all deliberate speech writing. And what I'm getting from Kamala is like, is it working? Is it working? And it is. It's working on a lot of you guys, working on a lot of Americans, right? Joy, hope, curing cancer, living with people that are firefighters and of all walks of life. Look, in almost any city in the United States, you're going to have firefighters and people that tend their lawn. These are just everyday things, but this is a deliberate behavioral thing because she's trying to see, I'm a common folk. I've been around people that do their lawns. I've been around firefighters. I'm with the people, common folk. But these are basic things. It's like saying, so who likes to drink water? Huh? Who's with me? Water? Water? Yeah, water. And actually later even she says like water, air. It's like these are things that everybody is for. But the policies aren't aligning with the things that you think that you're for. So you think you're voting for cool music and the popular crowd and the fact that you're not racist because you love people of all color. That's not what we're voting on though, you guys. The vote is about the policies. It's not a popularity contest on who can have a better concert or who can give a better speech about their childhood. I mean, this is beautiful, but it's not it's not what's going to solve the economy. It's not what's going to solve the crime. Okay, the nice lawn when you were a kid is not what we're arguing about.
She worked long hours, and like many working parents, she leaned on a trusted circle to help raise us. Mrs. Shelton, who ran the daycare below us and became a second mother. Uncle Sherman, Aunt Mary, Uncle Freddie, Auntie Chris. None of them family by blood, and all of them family by love.
Oh my goodness, there are just seeds. The whole thing to me is directed by whoever wrote this, because this is a little seed to plant in your mind because the last 3.5 years, the divorce rate has been through the roof. A lot of friends and family have broken up over the divisiveness of politics. And much of it is because this party and this administration has said, cancel anybody who thinks differently than you. If anybody doesn't like these policies, call them a racist, block them on Facebook. Media, news media has said these are terrible things. And so this is a little seed to plant like, hey, if you've lost all your friends and family because you guys argued over politics and we stirred the flames of divisiveness and racism, and so now y'all don't talk, it's okay. You can pick your own family, a family of love, right? And that's how cults work. Hey, your family doesn't understand you. Your family's all terrible. They're all small-minded. They don't want to expand their consciousness or whatever the cult is telling you. Now we're your family. Now we're your family. And while it's beautiful when somebody has a terrible upbringing or something to choose their friends and the people around them that they love as if they're family, that's great. But this is a very deliberate thing to make it okay that you guys don't talk to people that you love anymore, right? Over politics, it's okay. And also it reminds me, it's like planting this whole idea of like, we're just like the Wizard of Oz, everybody was there, Auntie Em and, the whole family, and I had my little dog Toto. But the only problem is, Kamala, is that we're not at that part in the movie. We're at the part in the movie where we realize the guy behind the curtain was running the show and it wasn't who we thought it was. And we're at the part in the story where, the Wicked Witch reveals herself. And actually, we're at the end of that movie. We're trying to move on to another movie, okay? Because while there's no place like home, We don't want to go back home when the home is destructive. So yeah, we want to build something new. We want to build something in the future. So this Auntie M story is actually not working for me at all.
Family who taught us how to make gumbo, how to play chess, and sometimes even let.
She's excited about playing chess because this whole thing is a chess match. This whole thing, that's what it is. But the problem is we are the pawns. The American citizen are the pawns. And it's dangerous. It's really dangerous, Kamala.
When family who loved us, believed in us, and told us we could be anything and do anything. They instilled in us the values they personified: community, faith, and the importance of treating others as you would want to be treated, with kindness, respect, and compassion.
But that's not what I've gotten from anybody. If you think differently than this, you're called terrible names. You're called a racist. And if you're not a racist at all, then you're told that you have to be a racist if you're not a racist. I mean, this is not kindness. That's not kind. And that's not treating your neighbor with love and respect. I'm sorry.
My mother was a brilliant, 5-foot-tall, brown woman with an accent. And as the eldest child, I saw how the world would sometimes treat her. But my mother never lost her cool. She was tough, courageous, a trailblazer in the fight for women's health. And she taught Maya and me a lesson that Michelle mentioned the other night. She taught us to never complain about injustice, but do something about it. Do something about it.
Okay, so same speechwriter, I guess, is what happened. She has the same speechwriter as Michelle Obama, which that's normal and that happens a lot. But here's the thing. Right now I'm inspired. And when I saw this, I was inspired. And that's what actually gave me the courage to do a video like this. Because I'm like, you know what? I do need to do something about this. I do need to speak up. I do need to do something about this injustice of calling people who provide food for this nation and the world horrible names because your policies are driving them out of business. And because they don't like it, because they can't provide food for their own family and also their business, the world even, they don't like that. Now they're called a terrible name. That's injustice. That's injustice. And Kamala's idea is to have price control, which that only harms the farmers and ranchers and you even more. It really, really hurts everybody, which I'm going to go and do another video on price control because I've thought a lot about this and I understand why it doesn't work and it's very, very, very dangerous.
That was my mother. And she taught us, and she also taught us, and never do anything half-assed. And that is a direct quote. A direct quote.
I mean, I'm glad her sister thought that was really funny because maybe she heard that, but it's like, that's your big punchline right there. Not to do it half-assed, put your whole ass in it. Okay, we got it.
I grew up immersed in the ideals of the civil rights movement. My parents had met at a civil rights gathering, and they made sure that we learned about civil rights leaders, including the lawyers like Thurgood Marshall and Constance Baker Motley.
It's a good thing everything fits into this perfect on the nose package, right? Isn't it amazing that that's how her parents met? Isn't it amazing that everything just perfectly, it's a little too on the nose, even for Hollywood. I mean, come on, writers. Like if this was written in a script, you'd be like, it's a little much, right? I mean, maybe this all happened, but it just seems a little too pat to me.
Who battled in the courtroom to make real the promise of America. So at a young age, I decided I wanted to do that work. I wanted to be a lawyer. And when it came time to choose the type of law I would pursue, I reflected on a pivotal moment in my life. You see, when I was in high school, I started to notice something about my best friend, Wanda. She was sad at school, and there were times she didn't want to go home. So one day I asked if everything was all right, and she confided in me that she was being sexually abused by her stepfather. And I immediately told her she had to come stay with us, and she did. This is one of the reasons I became a prosecutor, to protect people like Wanda.
Okay, did Wanda give you the okay to allow her to be spoken about at the DNC? Because the definition of confiding in your friend means that it's sort of a private situation. So I hope you at least changed her name for this story, because otherwise all your high school buddies are like, who is Wanda in high school? She got molested by her stepdad. Way to go to confide in your friend Kamala. She didn't tell anybody, Wanda. Don't worry. Wanda, she didn't tell anyone. Don't worry.
Because I believe everyone has a right to safety, to dignity, and to justice.
Even farmers, even ranchers, even the people trying to provide food for everybody, even people like me who maybe don't think like you, but are also trying to make a living. Do we deserve it or no? I'm just curious.
Prosecutor, when I had a case, I charged it not in the name of the victim, but in the name of the people. For a simple reason. In our system of justice, a harm against any one of us is a harm against all of us.
So why didn't it count when Donald Trump was nearly assassinated? Why did so many people think that that was staged and this and that? And just very, very rude about it. That wasn't, even the people who are anti-gun, I didn't hear them saying anything nice. If they're truly like caring about the anti-gun, they'd be like, this is awful. This is awful. Instead, they're like, why don't you care more about, kids and an ear? And it's like, nobody's saying that. Like, nobody's saying that except you. Like, there are some very caring people in the United States who care about everybody, no matter what, and actually do what you're saying, Kamala. But I didn't see love and care about that situation from you at all.
And I would often explain this to console survivors of crime, to remind them no one should be made to fight alone. We are all in this together. And every day in the courtroom, I stood proudly before a judge and I said 5 words: Kamala Harris for the people. And to be clear, my entire career, I've only had one client, the people. And so, on behalf of the people, on behalf of every American, regardless of party, race, gender, or the language your grandmother speaks, on behalf of my mother and everyone who has ever set out on their own unlikely journey, on behalf of Americans like the people I grew up with, people who work hard, chase their dreams, and look out for one another, on behalf of everyone whose story could only be written in the greatest nation on earth. I accept your nomination for the United States of America.
Okay, but again, you haven't said we're all for that. You've mentioned things that everybody's for, which is great, you know, from a speech writing standpoint. Just say, you know, who loves water? Who loves love? Who loves, you know, putting on clothes in the morning? It's like we all love that. Like all these stories so far haven't really told us anything about what you're going to do or to address any of the problems that have been. Maybe people feel like that's not appropriate at the DNC because it should just be a party. I mean, I heard one news outlet saying that it was that Trump, I think it was on MSNBC. Tell me if you heard this, but that Trump's the DNC or the RNC was like his inauguration, and that Kamala's, on the other hand, was like a DNC acceptance speech. I don't see, I see totally the opposite. I mean, completely the opposite. This feels like this is her inauguration address. This does not feel like I'm running for president. Maybe I should talk about some of the things that haven't been working and the things that are working. And yes, still get people excited about voting for you. Obviously, that's what you're doing. But I think it would be appropriate to address some things that haven't worked, some things that are going to work, and not just say nice childhood stories that everyone can be like, oh, that's great. Your mom cured cancer and you're a lawyer. I mean, awesome. But that still doesn't tell me anything. And also, why are we all forgetting that she's actually the vice president right now? Right now, it's not just you were a lawyer and then all of a sudden now you get a run for president. No, you're the vice president right now. How come none of that is in the story? I want to know about that.
Our nation, our nation with this election has a precious, fleeting opportunity to move past the bitterness, cynicism, and divisive battles of the past, a chance to chart a new way forward. Not as members of any one party or faction, but as Americans. And
I think she's talking to me right now.
I want you to know, I promise to be a president for all Americans. You can always trust me to put.
I can't trust you though. I can't. You didn't even tell me any of the story about how you became vice president. That would have been interesting to learn about. But it's like you don't even want to admit that you're vice president right now. So I don't trust you for that. I don't trust you for not mentioning that Joe Biden wasn't doing well. I don't trust you when you say all Americans, but you've been censoring half of Americans just because they don't believe in what you say, and have encouraged news outlets and everybody else to do the same, and families and friends and everybody to do the same. That is not unifying at all.
Above party and self, to hold sacred America.
Okay, sorry, let's just back it up a little bit.
All Americans, you can always trust me to put country above party and self, to hold sacred America's fundamental principles, from the rule of law to free and fair elections to the peaceful transfer of power.
Well, of course, she's trying to talk about January 6th here, which I know some of you guys might really disagree with me on that, because that's what people always love to bring up. Like, what about January 6th? What about January 6th? First of all, it was a group of extremists, and that was not President Trump's, what do you want to call it? Encouragement to those people. No. there were some people that were disappointed and they wanted to challenge the election and see what the results were. And then they were peaceful. And then there were some extremists. There's extremists in every group. There's extremists outside of the DNC. 5 people died outside of the DNC, but they don't mention that. Those were probably, I don't know what the whole story was about the people that died, but I would imagine maybe extremists, and there were other people that were hurt. There's just extremists in every group. So if we ever always play to that, then we're in trouble. But the problem is they don't. Kamala, you only play to it if it serves you. You don't talk about the extremists that are outside right now. That's not fair. And I thought you just said everybody. So the people who were concerned about that election don't count? They don't count? That doesn't make sense to me.
I will be a president who unites us around our highest aspirations. A president who leads and listens, who is realistic, practical, and has common sense.
No, I'm sorry. I have to talk about the price control really quick. Let's say apples, I don't know, something. Okay, let's just go with the analogy. So in California, it costs, let's say, $10 to produce a bushel of apples. Whereas in Iowa, it costs $2 to produce a bushel of apples, right? So if Kamala says, nope, everyone has to charge only $2 for apples, that's it. That's the price control, no more gouging. Well, now the person in California goes out of business because they're like, well, it costs me $10 to produce those apples. I'm going to lose $5 every time I try to produce apples, let alone all of the regulations and all of the stringent things that they put on a lot of farmers that are ridiculous and obscene. And I could go on and on because I've worked with as a coach, and also I know a lot of farmers and ranchers, and these regulations are strangling them, and they're shutting down, not having access to their water supply, all these different things. So then now only one farmer has control over everything, essentially, because they're the ones that can stay in business. Maybe it's Bill Gates. And so now the government totally owns and operates the food. Okay, so now that does and can lead to food shortages and bread lines. We've seen that in other parts of the world, right? So that's why the price control doesn't work. Also, price control is not free marketplace. So the minute you have a price control on one area, where does it stop? Who's to say Kamala isn't going to say, and then next, all hairstylists have to charge exactly the same. All artists have to charge exactly the same, because otherwise it's not fair. Essentially, you're eliminating variation. And the minute you eliminate variation, you aren't having fair competition. You don't have a free marketplace. You don't. You have government control and more regulations. It sounds like something good, like, oh, stop the price gouging. The reason why food costs are so high is because of inflation. It's because of the economy. It's because everything is costing more, including more for the farmer or the grocery store or whatever. And so then they have to raise the prices. Okay, so what we have to do is go to the root of the problem, not punish the people who are already struggling because of the problem. That makes zero sense. So that is not practical. That is not common sense. And it actually is extremely dangerous.
And always fights for the American people. From the courthouse to the White House, that has been my life's work.
And that is scary to me. So now this is the most truthful thing and the most truthful behavior of what I've seen so far. This is the most truthful part of her speech, from her behavior and everything. I mean, very power stance. But from the courthouse to the White House, so you've never built anything. You've never had to do a business. All you've done is been in the business of punishing people. And now you're gonna go into the White House to punish more people? That does not ring freedom to me. That is not, no. Mm-mm.
As a young courtroom prosecutor in Oakland, California, I stood up for women and children against predators who abuse them. As Attorney General of California, I took on the big banks, delivered $20 billion for middle-class families who faced foreclosure, and helped pass a homeowner bill of rights, one of the first of its kind in the nation. I stood up for veterans and students being scammed by big for-profit colleges.
Oops, poor, that was her husband, right? Poor guy. They like put the camera on him when he's trying to like itch his nose, get something, get a little something, something.
For workers who are being cheated out of their wages, the wages they were due.
Okay, so another thing, like the minimum wage thing, it sounds wonderful. It sounds wonderful, like just keep going after the businesses. But the problem is businesses just shut down because a lot of them can't afford these type of policies. They can't. I'm no fan of McDonald's, but since Kamala always mentions that she worked at McDonald's, I have been known to have a hash brown or 20. Okay, I like their breakfast. That's the only thing I can stand at McDonald's. Sorry, McDonald's, not healthy, not good for you. Okay, don't like it. Any doodle McNoodle. Kamala always mentions that she worked at McDonald's and that's like the American dream. You know, she was going to Howard University and working at McDonald's. Well, guess what? McDonald's can't even afford your practices. They can't even afford your policies, Kamala. They can't even afford to pay the people minimum wage. McDonald's, a giant corporation, they're shutting down everywhere. I was on a road trip recently and I did get a hash brown at McDonald's. And I do not like McDonald's, but I do like their hash brown. Okay, so I was at McDonald's and there were no workers. Kamala, you've been replaced by a kiosk. There's kiosks now. So that little cute dream isn't even possible for a lot of people anymore. They can't go work their way through college at McDonald's. And just continuing to gouge and punish the corporations and the businesses, small businesses, large businesses. What happens is that businesses just either replace the humans with computers, they shut down, or it just creates monopoly because the only people that can survive under it survive. And now the government owns those businesses. And now we have a monopoly. So we'll have a monopoly on farming. You'll have big ag that runs everything that the government owns, and then all the other businesses begin to be the same way.
For seniors facing elder abuse, I fought against the cartels who traffic in guns and drugs and human beings.
For seniors that face elder abuse, you fought the cartels. Well, it hasn't been working. Because I have news for you. I can't walk a block in a nice neighborhood anymore in Denver, Colorado without seeing fentanyl overdose. I've called on 2 times on people having fentanyl overdoses. My daughter and I, 7-year-old daughter, have seen people shooting up. My dad, who just died, has had tremendous elder abuse with the just elderly care system and Social Security and all this. It's been a nightmare. My widowed stepmom still hasn't even had access to the money that's owed to her. That is the system that is in place. That is elder abuse. And then meanwhile, all the people that have moved in, he lives in Florida, or he lived in Florida, all the people that have moved into Florida are conducting elder abuse big time, especially in Florida. It is a hotbed. All the places, oh, we don't take that insurance. We don't take this insurance. The insurance, I don't know what you're talking about, Social Security. It's a disaster. So whatever policies, they're not working at all. They're not working.
The security of our border and the safety of our communities. And I will tell you, these fights were not easy. And
by the way, the shoplifting thing, and then in combined with, I'm sorry, I would love everybody to come to the United States legally. I have friends that are immigrants, and you get in trouble for saying you're not allowed to say you have a friend that's anything, whatever. Well, whatever, get over it. I've had friends, colleagues that have come here legally and made a lot of money here. Made a lot of money and been very, very successful. And that's amazing. But the people that are coming in illegally are harming not only me, not only you, but those people who worked so hard for their citizenship. Why is it fair that people can just go to Chicago? I have a friend in Chicago. She says people show up by the busload. And she said, these are not the friendliest looking people, by the way. And they're there because they want to get their free US ID. Because in Chicago, they just passed, I think it was in July, June or July, where you can live in Chicago for just 1 month and get a US ID. That is crazy. That is crazy. So that's hurting a lot of people of all different colors. People that have come here as immigrants legally and people that have already been natural born citizens. It's hurting all of us. And the crime on the street is crazy. I can't even go to the grocery store now without seeing a car broken into. That's a regular everyday occurrence. Cars are broken into, homes are broken into all the time. It is downright scary. So these policies have not been working. If these were just policies that you put into place as a prosecutor, I don't know, as VP, I don't know. It's not working.
Were the elections that put me in those offices. We were underestimated at practically every turn, but we never gave up because the future is always worth fighting for.
Why is she so angry about it? Look at that. She's got like contempt. I mean, that to me is scary. It's like you want to own our future. That's how it reads to me. You want to own every single person. That is not to me for the people at all. And she looks mad.
We are in right now a fight for America's future.
Ain't that the truth? I think that is the truth. And look at her. She is dead serious. That is the most truthful. Okay, a minute ago I said she was truthful. Now she is the most truthful. She wants America. And really to take it down. I'm sorry. I know that sounds like doom and gloom, but when you're talking about price control, when you're talking about all these things, I know she just flipped her stance on the border. It was racist to want to protect the border. Now suddenly she's saying, no, let's do the border. I mean, there was a wall around the DNC. It's very, I've studied a lot of narcissism, and on this channel, I have a lot of videos on narcissism. And to me, this reads as classic narcissism. It's projection, it's gaslighting at a mass scale, because everyone's like, I'm voting for the cool party. I like people of color. Yeah, we all do. Most people with a good heart do. Most people with a good heart in the United States do. They all love that. And so you're banking, Kamala, on the fact that people aren't going to pay attention to the actual policies that are opposite of what you're saying. And the most truthful thing that you're saying right now is that you want America and you want the future of America. And you didn't say that as joy-filled as you were about the gumbo, because you're dead serious here. This is not funny at all, or fun, or joy-filled. If we were talking about a hopeful future, like I thought this was all supposed to be about promise and hope and all the things, why aren't you so happy about it right now?
Fellow Americans, this election is not only the most important of our lives, it is one of the most important in the life of our nation. In many ways, Donald Trump is an unserious man. But the consequences of putting Donald Trump back in the White House are extremely serious. Consider.
Yes, because we will actually have freedom. We will actually stop stirring the fire and fanning the flames of racism and division. We will actually all be able to work and make a living. Why are these bad values anymore, Kamala? These are good things. This would help everybody, okay? And he actually is a serious man. He's actually also very funny, but he's very serious. But the thing about him is that he is perfectly imperfect. Everything he says isn't scripted. It's not. And so when you're actually really authentic, sometimes you say things that are a little funky, a little rough around the edges, whatever, because everything isn't scripted. But he's very serious about the job that he wants to do. And by the way, he already was president. And I don't know about you guys, but life was a lot better under those 4 years. It actually was. Like, I know many businesses that were doing a lot better. I know I was. The economy was doing better. So many things were doing so much better during that time. But you don't want to credit him because you don't like him.
Consider not only the chaos and calamity when he was in office, but also the gravity of what has happened since he lost the last election. Donald Trump tried.
Well, you went after your political opponent. You tried to imprison him. You're trying to imprison RFK Jr. because he doesn't align with what you believe. Anybody that does not politically align, you want to throw them in prison. That is chaos. That's scary. Where does that leave somebody like me? At least RFK and Donald Trump have the money to fight things like that. I don't. And so when I speak out, I'm just totally canceled, or my YouTube is taken away, or, you know, my entire business is taken away. And then I have to rely fully on the government. And I feel like that's what you want secretly. You don't want to say it out loud, but that seems to me what you want, because then the more people that are just totally dependent, that's easier to control. Censor anybody who doesn't believe in you or throw them in jail. I mean, it's just like that's
throw away your votes. When he failed, he sent an.
You threw away your votes. No, Kamala, you just threw away your boy Joe Biden's votes, like 14 million votes, I think. You just threw them away and became the nominee pick for vice president of the Democratic Party without any votes. And that's okay. Like that's unprecedented. Like that's not democracy. But you did that. So how are votes thrown away? I mean, you should know about that.
Of what has happened since he lost the last election. Donald Trump tried to throw away your votes. When he failed, he sent an armed mob to the United States Capitol where they assaulted law enforcement officers.
That is a lie. I mean, to me, it just also, it reads that she's lying. And I know people are going to say, no, he's lying. No, she's lying. No, and this is the danger, media. This is the danger when you don't just give people facts, when you give people opinions over and over and over, and then you censor anybody who says anything that you don't like, and you paint the picture of only the people that you like. This is what's really dangerous, because then people believe whatever you tell them, and nobody, you know, majority of people don't get the facts because majority of people don't want to do this much research. We shouldn't have to. We should just be able to get the facts, and the American people should be able to decide for themselves. But instead, we're just given a bunch of opinions and who's more popular and who has a better concert. And that's how we're supposed to decide the president of the United States.
When politicians in his own party begged him to call off the mob and send help. He did the opposite.
No, he called Nancy Pelosi and and asked her if she wanted more security, and she turned it down. And she's even on audio saying that. So it just doesn't add up.
And the flames. And now, for an entirely different set of crimes, he was found guilty of fraud by a jury of everyday Americans.
But everyday Americans who only believe what you say because you've censored many of us. You know, it's like, who knows? I don't know how some of these YouTubers can talk about this stuff without just completely getting demonetized, because demonetized or just their channel gone. But I know some people have, their channel's gone. And a small channel like me is really at risk because they're like, who cares about this little peon person? We'll just cancel her. Easy breezy, lemon squeezy. So this is not good.
Separately found liable for committing sexual abuse. And consider what he intends to do if we give him power again. Consider his explicit intent to set free violent extremists who assaulted those law enforcement officers at the Capitol. His explicit intent to jail journalists, political opponents, and anyone he sees as the enemy.
That is complete projection. That is exactly what you're doing, Kamala. That's like to a T what you're doing. And this, unfortunately, is what narcissists do. They say everything that they do, and then they pin it on you. They pin it on the other person. Because then you can dissociate and be like, what? That's exactly what they're doing. But see, then you get, that brain fog, because you're like, this is so confusing. Why would they say that is exactly what they're doing? That is so wild. But a lot of people, again, think they're just voting on, if you're not a racist, you got to vote for Kamala. If you love all people, you got to vote for Kamala. If you believe in love and air and drinking water, you got to vote for Kamala. And not looking at the fact that the policies don't align with what you're saying, Kamala. You want to jail a political opponent. I mean, you can, and look for the people who hate the person that you don't like, so that you can run a smear campaign and dig up as much dirt. It's very scary to think that it's the United States of America, and if somebody doesn't like you, they can just throw you in jail, because we can just create a story about you. And I've seen it happen just with narcissists, right? They'll run a smear campaign on you. I had narcissists even in my past that have told me, because they made amends with me or something, or tried to make amends and said, I made up lies about you because I was jealous. I'm like, what do you mean? Well, because I was really jealous of you. And so I made up lies, and I told students and made them leave, because I just made up lies and told them stuff about you so that they would not be your student anymore. And I'm really sorry. It's like, what? How am I supposed to fix that? I'm supposed to call all these students about, oh, this person was lying about. No, so you just let it alone and you lose a bunch of business. So whoever chooses to believe the lies, that's just lost. It's lost now. There's no making up for that. And that's what you're doing, Kamala, to the country.
His explicit intent to deploy our active duty military against our own citizens.
Never said that. And when you talk to military, a lot of military support, sorry, it kicks the table. A lot of military support Donald Trump, a lot. And a lot of military and veterans are very disappointed with how you handled Afghanistan, Kamala. And it's the 3-year anniversary of that pullout of Afghanistan, where 13 people died and some people are still over there. Like, that's how you handle the military and our veterans. And I know my dad was a veteran of the Vietnam War, and he was not treated well under this administration at all in his dying days. It's so sad to me. It is so, so, so sad. But I know how dirty politics are. He ran for Congress when I was 2 years old, and I saw how dirty politics were. It's dirty, and you are playing dirty, Kamala. So dirty.
Consider the power he will have, especially after the United States Supreme Court just ruled that he would be immune from criminal prosecution.
And why did the Supreme Court rule that? Look at how indignant she is. I mean, you got to ask yourself, when they had an entire the entire court system that they had set up for him with this case was all rigged against him. So how in the world did the Supreme Court give him immunity? How does this happen? We really want the court systems to just attack anybody that thinks differently than you. That is very, very, very scary. And look at his track record with everybody that's worked for him, all of his employees. He has so many employees all over the country, and they all speak lovely about him, but you'll never see that in the news. You'll never see that in the media. Why?
Just imagine Donald Trump with no guardrails. And
how? Imagine, he has so many guardrails on now, and he's still really fighting for freedom. Imagine him with no guardrails, and as president, we'd all could make money, regulations would be lifted, the farmers and ranchers could make money and provide food for us, inflation would go down, the economy would get better, because he can accomplish a lot with everybody attacking him. So imagine if everyone wasn't attacking him and he didn't have those barriers up against him to try to create good, allowing him. What if the barriers were just gone and it allowed him to just really do good? Imagine how amazing that would be. Imagine, because if he can create good under this much pressure, imagine what he could do without all that pressure. It would be phenomenal. This place really would be a beautiful place for people of all race, religion, everybody of all different types, the legal immigrants that have come in and become a citizen, the natural born citizens. This would be a beautiful place. And when he talks about make America great again, that's what he's talking about. Because some of us liked making money. Some of us liked being able to feed our children. Some of us liked being able to walk down the street without being terrified that we're going to either be assaulted, my car is going to be broken into, something's going to happen to my daughter and I. Some of us would like to go back to that. Yes, moving forward, but going back to the things that work. Going back to a time when, people that weren't racist didn't have to declare that they're racist because they're not racist. Because that fans the flame of division and racism when somebody who isn't even behaving like a racist is told, oh, it doesn't matter how you behave. Even if you're super nice, even if you're married to a person of color, even if you employ them, you're friends with them, whatever, none of that matters. What matters is what I tell you you are. What? Okay.
oh, he would use the immense powers of the presidency of the United States, not to improve your life, not to strengthen.
Really? Because he was improving my life. My business did better than ever in, between 2016 and 2020. It was better than ever. And a lot of people I know, their lives were better than ever then. I felt a lot more comfortable. I felt a lot safer. My students were all doing better. People weren't all being canceled and hated on. I mean, although that stuff was already starting because you guys hated him then. But again, we were still able to accomplish all that, even with the guardrails on.
Our national security, but to serve the only client he has ever had himself.
Say that to all his employees, all the people that he employs, all the people that he helps. You know, there's a lot that he does too that he never even shares with people. But if you look up some of his employees, you'll be amazed. You'll be amazed how well he treats people. And I mean, I could feel him working on the behalf of the American people because I saw it in the streets. We were safer. I mean, things just were working better. So in my opinion, that is how he's working for us, for everybody.
We know, and we know what a second Trump term would look like. It's all laid out in Project 2025.
He said 1,000 gazillion times that that's not even his thing. So why is it that Kamala doesn't have to be accountable for anything that has actually happened? But Donald Trump has to be accountable for things that he never did. That's crazy making. It's like, it's absolutely nuts. You know, it's like, it reminds me of this narcissist friend that I had who during the pandemic, you know, like broke up our friendship or whatever because I was saying that I wasn't sure if I wanted. Okay, I'm like going all in on this. I wasn't sure if I wanted the jab because I had seen a lot of people who were having jab injuries and insurance doesn't cover it at all if you have a jab injury. And I was concerned about that as a single mom. And I was just sharing this with my dear friend, who I thought was a dear friend. And she's like, well, you don't believe in science. Sounds like Fox News. I was like, sounds like Fox News that I don't know who's going to pay my bills if I'm like, that's actually a real thing. But then she had to like add insult to injury. And she's like, well, I guess we could still be friends, but you have to admit that you want my boyfriend. And I was like, what? But I don't. I was like, why do I have to admit something that's not true? And she's like, just admit it. Just admit it. Me and my friend decided you're jealous. Admit it. And I couldn't because it wasn't true. I was like, well, but it's not true. I'm actually really happy for you. And I genuinely was. And because I couldn't admit something that wasn't true, she's like, well, then we can't be friends. I'm like, okay, okie dokie. But that's exactly this mentality. It's like, you better own up to something that is not true about you or else. It's like, what? He never even, this is not his policy. He did not write it. He did not write Project 2025. That's probably extremists that wrote it, right? That have nothing to do, there's extremists everywhere. And this was a group of extremists that wrote that. Possibly. I don't know. I haven't read the whole thing, but the people were like, oh, our right to vote and our right to drive as women is going to be taken away. Are you cuckoo banana bread? That is not going to happen. In a gazillion years, that's not going to happen. It isn't. And if Donald Trump wins and takes away our right to drive as women or whatever Project 2025 says, then I will buy you some cuckoo banana bread. We'll split it, okay? And have a nice party.
His closest advisors, and its sum total is to pull our country back to the past. But America, we are not going back. We are not going back.
We're not going back. We're not going back to making money and getting along and having all different colors and ethnicities and religions getting along. Please, can we go back to that? I miss those days. I miss when we were all getting along and we could have differences and still have a conversation. I miss when voices that were different weren't censored. I miss when everything wasn't a popularity contest and so divided. I miss that. I would like to go back to that. And I think a lot of people would. Let me know if you would like to go back to a time when we all got along and we could have conversations and we could make money and we could have safety. Tell me if you'd like to go back to that, or if you want more of this where everyone hates each other, you're canceled, you have to go to court or thrown in jail if you speak up. and your business will be taken away from you, and, you know, all the things if you just have an opinion.
We are not going back. We are not going back to when Donald Trump tried to cut Social Security and Medicare. We are not going back to when he tried to get rid of the Affordable Care Act, when insurance companies could deny people with pre-existing conditions. We are not going to let him eliminate the Department of Education that funds our public schools.
Only if they're teaching things that not everybody is on board with. You know, I was looking up, because my daughter is in a public school, and I was looking up, why is it that we don't say the Pledge of Allegiance anymore? Why don't kids say the Pledge of Allegiance? And some of the things said, oh, it's because they're trying to sell flags. And the other one said, because it says under, you know, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And you can't say under God because not everybody believes in God. Okay, well, what if you just took out that part? What if you put, I mean, I believe in God, and I'm definitely believe in God, and God is the one that's like, Leah, you best do this. God is getting a little gangsta on me in the best of ways, because I'm realizing that God has boundaries, and God has like been pushing me to say this stuff. And so now I am. So I do believe in God, but I don't judge you or cancel you if you don't. But so if if you have a major problem with God, I'd like to leave it in there. But since we've already taken out the whole pledge anyway, if we were to keep the Pledge of Allegiance in, why couldn't we just say under love? One nation under love. It's I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to its republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Why is that taboo? Why is it taboo to have liberty and justice for all? But my daughter can be given a book out of the library, and this is real, out of the library at school, that says, you know, boys can wear skirts, which that part's fine. Okay, fine. Boys can wear skirts. The part that really bothered me was that when the whole family at the end of the book thought it was cute, that he also didn't have underwear on. Isn't that so cute? I don't think that's appropriate. And a lot of this stuff is just not appropriate to talk with your kid about. So why is it that we can take God out, we can take the Pledge of Allegiance out, but we have to have like pornographic books for kids in public schools? I don't get that. We have to have it so that, you know, Gavin Newsom signed the deal that parents don't even have to have consent for their kid to change genders and pronouns. I mean, that is nuts. What? Or not nuts. Something.
We are not going to let him end programs like Head Start that provide preschool and childcare for our children. America, we are not going back. We are charting a new way forward. Forward to a future with a strong and growing middle class, because we know a strong middle class has always been critical to America's success, and building that middle.
Yeah, and there is no middle class anymore. It's poverty and super rich. Because I was middle class and I'm not super rich. So you guessed it. You guessed it.
That will be a defining goal of my presidency. And I'll tell you, this is personal for me. The middle class is where I come from. My mother kept a strict budget. We lived within our means, yet we wanted for little. And she expected us to make the most of the opportunities that were available to us and to be grateful for them. Because as she taught us, opportunity is not available to everyone. That's why we will create what I call an opportunity economy where everyone has the chance to compete and a chance to succeed.
But you can't compete with price control. And I'm telling you, that is not going to be, it's not going to just be on grocery stores and the farmer and whoever. Price control is going to start going everywhere, because why stop there? Right? So that's not, again, a free marketplace, and that's not giving everybody a chance to compete. And then also when you have censorship and you censor small people like me, and so then we can't even compete in the marketplace, because if we don't have the same voice as you do, then we can't even push out our product because we're censored. That's not a free marketplace, and that is not opportunity for everybody. And it's not because somebody, Joe Schmo might be trying even harder and working harder and really pushing hard, but it's not supported by the popular group. And so even though his clients and his people would love his service, they don't even know about him because he's censored. He's censored and pushed out of the marketplace. How about just let this Joe Schmo put out his product to the people that want it from Joe Schmo, instead of just censoring him and blocking him out from everybody because you don't like him. That is how monopolies are formed. That is not a free marketplace. It's not free and fair and competitive and opportunity for all. It's opportunity for some, for the people in the popular group, for the people in the bully group, and that's it. That's not fair.
You live in a rural area, small town, or big city. And as president, I will bring together labor and workers and small business owners and entrepreneurs and American companies to create jobs, to grow our economy, and to lower the cost of everyday needs like healthcare and housing and groceries. We will provide access to capital for small business owners and entrepreneurs and founders. And we will end America's housing shortage, Social Security, and Medicare.
So these
Now compare that.
policies, I guess, that she's listing. But again, how are you going to do these things? Because the housing shortage is due to the influx of all the people that have come in. And then on top of, inflation, the bad economy and all the things. So gouging people and setting price control and all these things does not help it. And then your solution is to have the government build more houses. Well, then the government just owns more of the people. See, the more government has control over everything, then the government controls everything. That is not for the people. It's not.
To Donald Trump, because I think everyone here knows he doesn't actually fight for the middle class. He doesn't actually fight for the middle class. Instead, he fights for himself and his billionaire friends. And he will give them another round of tax breaks that will add up to $5 trillion to the national debt.
Well, I guess I had no idea, but I guess I'm Donald Trump's billionaire friend. Maybe that's just how he sees Americans, that he sees everybody, that we could all be billionaires. And maybe that's what she means, because it's like he treats us all like we could be billionaires. That to me is real possibility and opportunity. Because I was feeling like a billionaire. I was making money. My students were making money. We all could have different beliefs. Nobody was like, you can't think this way or that way. Like some people could still have privacy and safety and all of that. And so if that's what you mean by treating us all like billionaires, that was awesome. I liked it. I would like more of that.
And all the while, he intends to enact what in effect is a national sales tax, call it a Trump tax, that would raise prices on middle-class families by almost $4,000 a year.
It's just absolutely not true. If you've watched anything from Trump, it's just absolutely not true. I think she's confused with the tariffs that he's talking about, and that's not a tax on the American people. That's a tax on goods coming into the United States. And that's what would bring in more money to the United States. That's not a tax on the people.
Well, instead of a Trump tax hike, we will pass a middle class tax cut that will benefit more than 100 million Americans. Friends, I believe America cannot truly be prosperous unless Americans are fully able to make their own decisions about their own lives, especially on matters of heart and home.
Except
Able to make their own decisions about their own lives, especially on matters of heart and home.
So that's why we were all forced to get the jab, wear the mask, all the things, even if you were worried about insurance covering you if you got a jab. No, no, no. That was you making your own decision, being told that you are harming your elders and your neighbor and your everybody if you make a decision about your own body, if you made a decision about your own home and your own family. Is that what you mean, Kamala? About making decision? Oh, the decision that you want us to make. Okay, that's control. That's not us making our own decisions. That's you controlling our decisions. And as long as I control all your decisions, you can make decisions.
But tonight in America, too many women are not able to make those decisions. And let's be clear about how we got here. Donald Trump handpicked members of the United States Supreme Court to take away reproductive freedom. And now he brags about it. In his words, quote, "I did it and I'm proud to have done it," end quote. Well, I'll tell you, over the past 2 years, I've traveled across our country, and women have told me their stories. Husbands and fathers have shared theirs. Stories of women miscarrying in a parking lot, developing sepsis, losing the ability to ever again have children, all because doctors are afraid they may go to jail for caring for their patients.
What? I don't know. I don't know that this I think this needs to be majorly fact checked because I don't think that's happening. If that's happened to you, please leave a comment, or maybe you don't want to comment about that. You're like, I had a miscarriage in the parking lot. Maybe you don't want to comment about that, but I haven't heard of somebody being scared that they're going to go to jail because it's legal. I mean, in many, many states to do all these things that she's talking about. So I don't know what she's exactly talking about. I do know doctors and nurses who were terrified of losing their job during the lockdowns. If they thought differently or if they wanted to give people sovereignty. I did talk to a nurse at Children's Hospital. She said she was terrified to go to work because it was like this mob mentality. And she's like, I've never seen anything like it in my medical profession in my whole life. And now it's like we're told to do this thing without even telling people side effects or without even telling people about the dangers. Like this has never been heard of. And she's like, I don't feel right about it, but if I say something or speak up, I'll get fired. So I know that that actually happened, but that wasn't because of Trump. So I don't know what you're talking about here.
Couples just trying to grow their family, cut off in the middle of IVF treatments. Children who have survived sexual assault.
Look, also IVF is very expensive. I have a friend that went through it. It's like 20 grand a pop. So yeah, it's an extremely expensive process. And my friends that have gone through it, they have shared that it's extremely expensive. And it's not something that they like want to spend the money on. And some people couldn't afford that kind of money. But why is it that when I had cancer, and under Obamacare, because I had moved from California, I had insurance in California, moved to Colorado, I wasn't able to carry my insurance to Colorado because they wouldn't transfer it state to state. That's a problem. They wouldn't transfer it state to state. So I had to go under Obamacare, which covered nothing. People don't believe me, but it really didn't. I had to pay like $475 a month for it. And I remember getting one bill for, I had melanoma, I had a huge cancer, but that was, thank God, and when I had insurance. Then I had Obamacare, and then I had a basal cell carcinoma on my forehead, had to get that removed. It's my eyebrows are all weird, but anyway, had to get that removed. And here I was paying $475 a month for Obamacare and got the basal cell carcinoma removed. It was like a $10,000 bill that Obamacare covered $50 of 50. So that was insulting. And then when I tell people about that, they're like, didn't happen. Then you're just gaslit more. Didn't happen. Well, it did. It actually did. Well, you just did it wrong. You talked to the wrong people. What? I talked to everybody at the hospital, everybody, all the billing, all the people, it's just gaslighting at its finest.
Potentially being forced to carry a pregnancy to term. This is what's happening in our country because of.
And he's mentioned a million times now, if you watched anything that Trump has said, he believes in the exceptions. He believes in abortion if it's rape, incest, or the health of the mother. He said that many, many times. So I know this whole pro-choice thing is a really big hot topic. I also know people who've actually had babies that were conceived out of rape, believe it or not, and they love their child. So that can happen and be a beautiful blessing. But I realize in those rare circumstances of rape, incest, and the health of the mother, that should definitely be something to be put under consideration under those special circumstances. But it shouldn't, be just used as just a form of birth control or something. There are so many other ways to prevent pregnancy. And if you do get pregnant, there's still options for you. But if you're really that concerned about it, there's a real simple way, which is just abstinence. I mean, I know people don't want to hear that, but it's like there's a real simple way to take care of that if that's your main concern, right? I know some people are gonna get really mad at me about that.
Donald Trump, and understand he is not done. As a part of his agenda, he and his allies would limit access to birth control, ban medication abortion, and enact a nationwide abortion ban with or without Congress.
No.
And get this, he plans to create a national anti-abortion coordinator and force states to report on women's miscarriages and abortions.
But see that, and she's so disgusted by that, but that sounds awful. Like when you put it that way, it sounds awful. It's like, why would they do that? But here's the thing. It's normal to account for where money is going. That is normal. It's not like a personal thing. It's not like they're going to put your face up on a billboard or something. It's just a normal accounting. When my dad ran for Congress, one of the reasons why he didn't win, which he came very close to winning, and my dad came from nothing. Him and his brothers and sister, slept on newspaper. My grandma was a waitress. My grandpa worked on the railroad. They came from no money. My dad really did build himself up from the bootstraps. He ended up running for Congress, nearly won. But back in the day, when they leaked a, smear campaign on you, it was through the media. It wasn't through social media. So you had no way to retaliate if there was no time. So he ran against Pat Schroeder, a million years ago, back in the 70s. And she came out with a smear campaign because he wanted to know, for the accounting purposes, about the welfare money. He wasn't saying take away welfare money. He was just saying we need to account for, where this money is going and how it's helping, and be specific about it. And Pat Schroeder ran a smear campaign on my dad saying, oh, look at Gene Hutcheson trying to take the milk away from single mothers. And everybody was like, what? He's trying to take milk away from single moms. That's terrible. And so that's what this sounds like to me, when that's not the case at all. It sounds to me just like basic accounting. You're not going to put your face on a billboard if you, come on.
Simply put, they are out of their minds.
Out of their minds to want to do simple accounting with taxpayers' money? I don't think that that's so crazy. That's like basic business, just like accounting for things.
One must ask, why?
If you had been accounting for things, Kamala, the last 3.5 years, maybe we wouldn't be in this financial turmoil that this country is in. Accounting is good. I know I've had a tough time sometimes in my life making a budget. You talked about your mom having a budget. Why can't the country?
Exactly is it that they don't trust women? Well, we trust women. We trust women. And when Congress passes a bill to restore reproductive freedom, as President of the United States, I will proudly sign it into law. This election, many other fundamental freedoms are at stake. The freedom to live safe from gun violence in our schools, communities.
The freedom to live safe from gun violence in our schools and community. And your idea is to take guns away from civilians and only criminals can have them, and then to take away police presence in the schools. And that's going to help us. And also to take away police presence everywhere. Because you have said that you don't think that it'll be safer with having police. Well, who am I supposed to call when something goes down? Am I supposed to call you? Am I supposed to call Oprah? Is Michelle Obama going to come help me and my daughter? Because I doubt it. I think if something goes down, I'm going to be calling the police. But you don't want the police. You don't think the police add safety, I guess. I don't know.
Places of worship. The freedom to love who you love openly and with pride.
Nobody has a problem with that. Nobody really does. When you look at the policies, and by the way, look up Ty Rivera. He's an old buddy of mine from stand-up, when I did stand-up a long time ago. And he, back when I lived in LA, I did stand-up professionally, and he's a very funny comedian. He's a gay man, and he's pro-Trump, and there's a lot of people like him. So he's not for you not loving who you love and stuff. That's not true. He's not true. It's just about policies. Certain policies are dangerous that a lot of people aren't for, even gay people, even all the LGBTQ. There's people that the media don't want to give, platform or a voice to, that also don't think children should be making adult decisions and things like that. They're just very basic things. But it's not about not loving who you love and stuff like that. We all want that. Like, love who you love. It's all good.
The freedom to breathe clean air and drink clean water and live free from the pollution that fuels the climate crisis. and the freedom that unlocks all the others, the freedom to vote.
Yeah, the freedom to vote, but why is it that everyone in the world, and God bless you, everyone in the world, but everyone in the world shouldn't be able to vote in the US elections? I mean, it's nuts that people in Chicago are getting US ID just after being here 1 month. I mean, I guess that's a freedom to vote for everybody in the world to just vote in the US election, but I don't think that that's right. Freedom to vote for any US citizen, yes. But it should be ID. I mean, why is that so racist? I have no idea because I've never met anybody that doesn't know how to get an ID, that doesn't know how to go to the DMV. I mean, to get health insurance, to get a car, to get a house, to get an apartment, to even get government assistance, you have to have an ID. So why is it that you can vote without one? The only people that I think that should be exempt are veterans who can't, leave. Then they could have somebody come to their house and you could have a notary there or whatever, or elderly people. But otherwise, if you're able-bodied, I believe that you can bring your ID and go to a voting booth. I don't understand why that's such a big deal.
With this election, we finally have
Even though we don't do it that way, we do it with mail-in votes and you can have 10 ballots. And I know a guy who he was given mailed 10 ballots. And you might go, that's not true, that's not true. And I even told him, I'm like, why don't you contact the news? Why don't you do all this stuff? He didn't want to because he didn't want to get canceled. He didn't want to get ridiculed. He didn't want his whole life to be stripped away from him. So he didn't vote 10 times, but he got 10 ballots.
Opportunity to pass the John Lewis Voting Rights Act and the Freedom to Vote Act. And let me be clear. After decades in law enforcement, I know the importance of safety and security, especially at our border. Last year, Joe and I brought together Democrats and conservative Republicans to write the strongest border bill in decades. The Border Patrol endorsed it. But
why doesn't the Border Patrol endorse you? I mean, ask that. Why don't they endorse you? And I don't even know if that's the truth about the thing. But see, it's just all this is, she talks about walk the walk, but these are just like talking points, and her behavior and everything backs up the lies, really, in my opinion.
Trump believes a border deal would hurt his campaign.
No, that's not true. It's just that it wasn't a good border deal. It was giving amnesty to criminals, and it wasn't really helping the situation. I don't think it was because he thought it would hurt his campaign, but that certainly helped your speech. And look at the contempt, just full of contempt. That's not loving everybody. That's not loving the country. That's not loving people that have different opinions.
So he ordered his allies in Congress to kill the deal. Well, I refuse to play politics with our security. And here is my—
Really? Is that why you said that the border wall was racist and a vanity project for Trump and all this stuff? But now that you realize that the polling comes to show that people actually do want safety and they do want a border, more border security and a wall. Now you're talking about, oh yeah, the wall. Yeah, let's do it. That's not playing politics.
To you. As president, I will bring back the bipartisan border security bill that he killed, and I will sign it into law. I know we can live up to our proud heritage as a nation of immigrants and reform our broken immigration system. We can create an earned pathway to citizenship and secure our border. And America, we must also be steadfast in advancing our security and values abroad. As Vice President, I have confronted threats to our security, negotiated with foreign leaders, strengthened our alliances, and engaged with our brave troops overseas. As Commander-in-Chief, I will ensure America always has the strongest, most lethal fighting force in the world.
Whoa, that doesn't sound very joy-filled, and that sounds a little bit like playing politics, because isn't that not what she said in the past? But now it's all about like this fighting mentality, and I'm not like all about war. War should be like the least thing that we'd ever want to do, and not even the least, like just not something you want to do unless it is the last resort. And I thought she was all about peace, but now suddenly it seems like playing politics a little bit with this defense stuff. I mean, why do we give $81 billion? I think it was. Tell me if that was it. I read that it was $81 billion, and I read this from like, I don't know, one of the news outlets that loves Kamala, and $81 billion worth of equipment that we gave to Afghanistan of the United States. So, didn't you do that, Kamala?
And I will fulfill our sacred obligation to care for our troops and their families, and I will always honor. And
is that why? What did you do for the 13 people that died in Afghanistan? I know some really sad veterans, and I haven't heard you guys talk about them at all. These 13 people that died in Afghanistan. It's so sad.
Never disparage their service and their sacrifice. I will make sure that we lead the world into the future on space and artificial intelligence, that America, not China, wins the competition for the 21st century, and that we strengthen, not abdicate, our global leadership. Trump, on the other hand, threatened to abandon NATO. He encouraged Putin to invade our allies, said Russia could, quote, do whatever the hell they want. 5 days before Russia attacked Ukraine, I met with President Zelensky to warn him about Russia's plan to invade.
And how did that go? Because why is it that we are where we are, Kamala?
Mobilize a global response, over 50 countries, to defend against Putin's aggression. And as President, I will stand strong with Ukraine and our NATO allies. With respect to the war in Gaza.
Is that Ben Stiller? Did he look scared? He's like, does anyone see me here? Oh my gosh. That was funny.
President Biden and I are working around the clock.
Are you?
Because now is the time to get a... And as president, I will stand strong with Ukraine and our NATO allies. With respect to the war in Gaza, President Biden and I are working around the clock, because now is the time to get a hostage deal and a ceasefire deal done. And let me be clear, I will always stand up for Israel's right to defend itself, and I will always ensure Israel has the ability to defend itself, because the people of Israel must never again face the horror that a terrorist organization called Hamas caused on October 7th, including unspeakable sexual violence and the massacre of young people at a music festival. At the same time, what has happened in Gaza over the past 10 months is devastating. So many innocent lives lost. Desperate, hungry people fleeing for safety over and over again. The scale of suffering is heartbreaking. President Biden and I are working to end this war such that Israel is secure, the hostages are released, the suffering in Gaza ends, and the Palestinian people can realize their right to dignity, security, freedom, and self-determination. Whatever action is necessary to defend our forces and our interests against Iran and Iran-backed terrorists. I will not cozy up to tyrants and dictators like Kim Jong-un who are rooting for Trump.
No, they want you, Kamala. They want you because it's going to be way better to get a good deal, meaning a good deal only for them through you, you know. See, this is what you would know, Kamala, if you ever had to do business, but you didn't. You went, like you said, straight from the courthouse to the White House. And so you don't understand negotiations. You know how to punish, you know how to ridicule, you know how to shame, and you know how to get what you want. So what some people are afraid of is that you're going to go in and try to do these negotiations, but they're not really negotiations because they'll just, you know, it's a popularity contest. So like whatever lobbyists or whatever want you to do, then you'll just do that. But see, they don't want him because he actually will negotiate. And when you keep saying like he cozies up to them and does this and that, no, you don't have to be best friends with somebody or even agree with somebody to be able to talk to them and negotiate with them.
Because, you know, they know he is easy to manipulate with flattery and favors. They know Trump won't hold autocrats accountable because he wants to be an autocrat himself. And as president, I will never waver in defense of America's security and ideals because in the enduring struggle between democracy and tyranny, I know where I stand and I know where the United States belongs. Americans, I love our country with all my heart. Everywhere I go, in everyone I meet, I see a nation that is ready to move forward, ready for the next step in the incredible journey that is America. I see an America where we hold fast to the fearless belief that built our nation and inspired the world. That here in this country, anything is possible, that nothing is out of reach. An America where we care for one another, look out for one another, and recognize that we have so much more in common than what separates us. None of us has to fail for all of us to succeed.
Okay, from a behavioral standpoint right here, this is a very deliberate camera angle. And of course, the person is down below than them. But that's really this from a behavior standpoint and from just a staging standpoint, this is very deliberate. She's above all of us now. Remember how the two men at the very beginning, Waltz and her husband, were like below her, like she's up on the pedestal. And I mean, obviously, literally, she's on a pedestal. We get it. But this is really how it is. It's like she's up there, we're all the peons down here. And so that whole time before, they didn't want to do this camera angle because she was talking about the common folk and people's lawns and you know, anti-M and all the things. But now that she's president, she's above us all. You know, she's not president yet, she's vice president, but it's like she's above us all. And I don't want to say she's vice, I know, if she does get president, God bless America, God bless everybody. I'll still love everybody. And I think you know, no matter what, I've got God. We're gonna pull through. But this is just all so deliberate.
That in unity, there is strength. You know, our opponents in this race are out there every day denigrating America, talking about how terrible everything is.
You have to address what isn't working in order to go to the solutions. You can't just look, it looks like she's holding my little picture there. That's funny. You have to address what isn't working in order to fix it. So it's been a little grim lately, yeah, because a lot of people actually who aren't in gated communities and super elitist like you, Kamala, we're noticing fentanyl on the street. We're noticing crime. We're noticing all these things. It's in our face. We're noticing how hard it is to pay for things. It's in our face. It's in our everyday experience. And so some of us actually like somebody actually just noticing the truth and actually listening to people and noticing what's going on. That gives us hope that we can make a difference, that we can make a change. But if you never address what's going on, then I'm not sure that you understand the gravity of what's going on.
Well, my mother had another lesson she used to teach. Never let anyone tell you who you are. You show them who you are.
Okay, this is now days later. I had to do a detox from that. I'm going to watch the end of this speech with you. If you've made it all the way to the end, God bless you. If this annoyed you, God bless you. If you don't even believe in God, God bless you. Okay, let me know what you think of this. It's been a doozy. I had to come out and get some fresh air. My battery had died at the end of that video there. And when I was getting it ready for you, I realized that. So if you like this, please do like it, comment, subscribe, because it helps a lot. What they're doing on YouTube, especially with small creators like me, I literally watch my views on one video. So it's not like, oh, that video just didn't get views. I'll watch views drop before my eyes. So somebody is just taking them away. And then, you know, of course I lose subscribers because you're not really supposed to exercise freedom of speech under this administration. So if you believe in freedom of speech, even if we disagree, please subscribe. And if you do believe in freedom of speech, subscribe. Okay, what did you think of this?
Let us show each other and the world who we are and what we stand for. Freedom, opportunity, compassion, dignity, fairness, and endless possibilities.
She seems so mad when she talks about possibilities. Have you noticed that? It's just strange. I mean, she's doing a good job here, coming it in for the end, coming it in for the big close. You can feel it ramping up. She gets excited and stuff, but every time she talks about possibilities, it seems like she gets mad. I don't know. She gets a little grumpy.
Are the heirs to the greatest democracy in the history of the world. And on behalf of our children and our grandchildren and all those who sacrificed so dearly for our freedom and liberty, we must be worthy of this moment. It is now our turn.
It has been your turn the last 3.5 years, Kamala. It's just amazing to me how many people forget. It has been your turn. During your turn as vice president, things have gone from bad to worse to worse to worse to worse to worse. It has not been good during your turn. You're getting your turn. You've gotten your turn. And you look really pretty. I will give you that. And I'm excited because you get happy here at the end, kind of happy, sad, mad.
To do what generations before us have done, guided by optimism and faith, to fight for this country we love, to fight for the ideals.
Weren't they just making fun of Donald Trump when he said fight, fight, fight? People were like, what are we fighting for? I don't get it. That's what we're fighting for. We're fighting for freedom and freedom of speech and freedom to have faith, freedom to love who you love, including God, if you love God. I love God, and I feel like there's like this thing with people who don't believe in God, like you're not allowed. You can love anybody, but not God. Why? If you can love who you love, can't I love God too? I mean, that's real faith, is to be able to do that.
We cherish and to uphold the awesome responsibility that comes with the greatest privilege on earth, the privilege and pride of being an American.
There she goes, angry again about being an American. I mean, that's a good speech and that's a good closer here. But she looks mad whenever she talks about possibility and being an American is when she looks mad. I want that gumbo smile when you talk about American, you know? It's like, let's have that gumbo smile. You were so happy with the gumbo and the street, the flats, living in the flats. You were so excited about that. I would love to see that same enthusiasm for being an American. This is the most patriotic I've ever seen her, though, but it kind of makes her mad. So it makes me feel like they told her she had to say this, but she doesn't really feel it.
So let's fight for it. Let's get out there. Let's vote for it. And together, let us write the next great chapter in the most extraordinary story ever told. Thank you. The United States of America. Thank you.
Oh, she's like, I did it. Dismount and dismount. Got it. Okay, that was it. That was nice at the end. I mean, she was like, nailed it. Okay, so tell me what you think about that. God bless you if you loved it. God bless you if you hate it. God bless you if you don't believe in God. God bless America. Subscribe. Please subscribe. Dear God, please subscribe.